for joining us today and welcome to my sewing room. The theme for the show today is called Advanced Lace Shapes, but don't let that scare you because we're just going to go one step further than the places we've already been with lace shaping. This particular lady's collar has only a miter in the front, but a very interesting detail. Some new colors have been tucked into this beautiful white dress. I think the skirt is especially lovely on this dress. This is what I call over and under lace shaping. Do you see it goes over and under, curved and squared pin tucks, two different colors and little diamonds and mitering. The over and under I will share with you in just a few minutes. This lovely little girl's party pants, I call this outfit, has the most beautiful collar with over and under lace shaping. It has lovely embroidery, bullion rosebuds, loops, miters, and the little rosebuds and little feather stitches are tucked away in the corner of the collar. So pretty and so elegant. This unusual little dress has lace shaping very much like my turn-of-the-century garments. The little loops, it almost looks like a little ocean wave. And here's another little ocean wave or a little fish hook, either one. And the mitering, and do you see the laces are shaped right on top of some elegant, elegant tucks. The bottom of this little dress is very elegant also. It has up and down right along the bottom to make it so pretty for a jigged, jagged skirt. This little elegant dress is lace shaping a wonderful bodice done on a hot pink velveteen with wonderful pin tucks. Very elegant and very easy to do. The sleeve, I think, is especially pretty. It comes up into a little pyramid or a little point. This pretty blouse combines lace shaping on the blouse with lace shaping on the collar, little curves, pin tucks, and lace shaping in a very antique manner, which almost looks like a flower on the bodice of this blouse. More lace shapes on this pretty little peach batiste dress, a little bow, a little curve, some pin tucks, and then a little scallop skirt. Not one little scallop skirt, but follow with me. One scallop skirt, two scallop skirts, three scallop skirts. This is one of my favorite dresses in the whole world. I have one more little party pants idea for you. The sweet lace shaping, we have loops that meet. The little bodice comes down on the party pants. Some little sweet shadow work embroidery and bullion rosebuds right here in this mitered lace shaping. Let me turn this around just a little bit for you. The collar has loops of lace and a tiny little bit of smocking that comes around on the back of the collar. And as you can see, this sweet little collar does not meet in the front. If it had met in the front, it would have covered up part of this elegant work here. Come with me to the technique boards to discover how easy it is to shape advanced lace shapes. Have you ever thought about making a puffed heart? Well, I'm going to show you how. First of all, I trace the heart onto the fabric in a magic purple pen, blue pen, or number 2 pencil. Then I go ahead and use my gathering foot on the sewing machine and make a little strip of puffing. Next, I come over to my heart, put the little strip of puffing over the heart, and stitch around the puffing in the shape of a heart so I can get ready and trim away this excess fabric from the puffing. Next, I bring a piece of lace, put the pins on the outside. This shows how it's already been stitched. You remember when we shape lace, this is how we do it. Put the pins on the outside and then bring it all the way around and then pull a string, make it lay flat. I'll show you that in just a second. And then over here is the little puffed heart. Do you see? It's a heart shape and a little tiny one with puffing in the middle. The next lace I showed you earlier, you remember I called it crisscross lace? Here's how it goes. First of all, I'm going to shape a piece of lace down, miter it and come up, and then I'm ready to zigzag both sides. Second step, I'm going to shape a loop. You remember on those beautiful collars I showed you a few minutes ago? Okay, now, When I shape circular lace, I put the pins on the outside, leaving it floppy here in the middle, and this is such a wonderful trick. Over here, I'm going to find the string, the pull cord in the lace, and watch what happens when I pull the string. And I want you to watch right up here. All of that floppy lace all of a sudden lays down flat. That's step number 2. Now, I've got step number 1, step number 2. The next piece of lace that comes on looks almost like an ocean wave. Shape the next piece, pull a string, make it lay flat, zigzag it down. On to the next ocean wave, we'll come down and put one going in the other direction. Okay, this ocean wave comes up here and around. Now look real carefully. You see I have one piece is under, one piece is over, one piece is under, one piece is over. Then this is what it looks like after you zigzag all of it down. And the magic of this is to make a peekaboo. Do you remember when I shared with you that in order to make it peekaboo, I go in behind and trim the fabric away from behind the laces, and that is how you do crisscross lace shaping. I have a quilt square to share with you, and we'll do a little bit more of advanced lace shaping on it. I really like lace shapes within lace shapes. This particular quilt square is just such an animal, so to speak. This particular quilt square has 3 hearts. 1 heart, 2 hearts, 3 hearts. Do you notice they are shaped over and under? This particular heart goes underneath this part of the second heart. On the other side, it goes above that part. It's really interesting the way they go over and under and over and under. This particular series of 3 hearts within hearts, I have it shaped out here on the lace shaping board. Now, as you can see, once again, I put the pins on the larger side of the heart. I have flipped under the bottom in the fold under miter, and now it is time to remove the pins from the board. After I spray starched and impress it, I remove the pins from the board, pin it flat, as you see I have done in this other area, and then this is ready to go over to the sewing machine to sew. Today, I have another shape for you. Let me refresh your memory on this particular shape. This is the one where we had the little waves that go over and under. The first wave is here. The second wave wasn't really a wave at all, but rather it was a loop. And then we had one wave that went down next and one wave that went over. And that makes an over and under pattern. I would like to sew now using the entre-deux or the wing needle stitch. Now when I make entre-deux stitching, which is one of the most beautiful stitches that has been built into our sewing machines today. By the way, entre-deux, 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 and one lovely lady out at a California doll show said, "Martha, you know, since I have been putting the entre-ducks in my doll clothes, they have been much more beautiful." So there's at least one dear little doll maker in California that calls her dress, her entre-deux, she calls it entre-ducks. You know, you can call it anything you want to call it, but it is a beautiful stitch, and there's something a little bit funny about this stitch. I would like to tell you something kind of cute. Now, by the way, I'm going to stop talking now and come into this place where the laces cross over. Now, I'm going to lift it up. Let me lower the needle. I'm going to lift it up. Well, I need to make about 2 more stitches before I stop, because actually, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm not going to cross over the lace. Can you see if I crossed over the lace, I would indeed stitch through 2 pieces of lace. I'm going to leave the needle in the fabric. I'm going to turn, and I'm going to travel around the lace. So I'm going to go up to the next point. Anyway, one lady, I was going to go back with my little story. One lady said, "You know, Martha, the thing that I like so much about entre-deux, you don't really look at the stitches, you look at the holes that it makes." And you know, that really is the way you look at it, all right? Once again, I am at a corner, so I turn and I begin to sew to go around this big point right here. You see, this is really the way on the old turn-of-the-century clothes. Now, they did not have entre-deux stitching on too many of their clothes to attach lace, although the old hem stitchers were invented about the mid-1800s. Some of the companies actually made machines that did nothing but hem stitching, and they were called a hem stitching machine. But what's so exciting on today's modern sewing machines is that you don't have to try to fool with one of those 100-year-old machines. You can have a machine that not only does that beautiful hem stitching, but that also does 400 or 500 other stitches. Now, I would like for you to look right here, real close up, at this lovely entredot stitch. You see, you're looking for the holes. You're not really looking for the stitching at all, but rather you're looking for the holes. And do you also see how I went around the corner in this point right here, rather than going across the lace? All right, that's how you put all these together. I have a lovely little dress over here showing you once again another form of curved laces, and in this case, once again, curved puffing and curved entredot. The little dress, the little girl's dress that we're featuring on this series is the little drop-waisted dress. Let me lift up the collar here and show you this simple, very flattering style. I have found that most of our girls after about age 3 on up to about 12 really like this simple drop-waisted style. The curving on this particular collar is curved puffing around here, then the curved lace. You see I have 2 rows of curved lace, and then entredot, and this lovely wide English netting lace that is gathered ever so slightly on the bottom of this collar. All right, back to the storyboard. Now, what I did is you trace off the whole round portrait collar, and I left a little fabric for the part that actually goes up to the neckline. Let me show you one more time on this round portrait collar. Do you see how at the top of this collar there is fabric? I do not have laces that go up to the neckline. I have a piece of fabric, and then I start the portrait collar. Okay, here is how this is done. First of all, I leave this little bit of fabric, then I come in and I have entredot, then I have lace, then I curve puffing. Now remember, when this was originally made, I stuck pins in the board all the way around it and then pulled a string and made it lay flat. And then after all was pinned and pressed and ready to go, then I pin it all flat and I'm ready to go to the sewing machine to sew. There's one more thing, let me share with you. All of this was made on a piece of tissue paper, and the sewing and everything was done on that piece of tissue paper. I have a lovely little doll who is just over waiting to show you her elegant lace-shaped dress. It has little hearts on it. My doll that I told you really wanted to meet you in her lovely heart dress is named Catherine. She has green eyes and red hair, and Catherine has 3 beautiful intertwined hearts going sideways this time on her little collar. Her sleeve is of the lovely tie silk. This is just a pale, pale peach tie silk and Swiss organdy that this dress is made of. And on her sleeve she has a little V in the tie silk, and then a little V in the lace, and then the rest of the sleeve is organdy. This beautiful silk dress has the prettiest bottom, I think. It has the scallop skirt and the little hearts, and inside the little hearts is a little organdy piece. I'm going to show you how to make that right now. Doesn't Catherine look lovely in her peach tie silk dress? To start the collar on this dress, the first thing I made was the 3 hearts on a piece of organdy. Zigzag them down, and then I'm ready to go in here and trim away, zigzag, and you know, of course, not to sew over pins. Now, here's how this collar goes together. Here is the other part of the collar, the whole part of the collar, and then after I have done all of the sewing on these 3 hearts, they will be stitched right down onto the collar, and then I will trim everything away. That is how you make the collar. Okay, the skirt on Catherine's little dress starts out with scallops that travel around the skirt, making into little hearts. Here's another scallop. Now, I stitch first along the top of each one of these hearts and along the top of the scallop skirt. After this first stitching is done, at that point, I trim away the underneath. In other words, the inside of this heart is then all trimmed away. And then I add organdy underneath there and zigzag the organdy in. Here is the heart where I have zigzagged the organdy in. And as on many of these dresses, the final step would be where I pull the thread on the edging, the lace edging, and then butt it up and simply zigzag it together. Now that is how Catherine's beautiful dress was made. Next, we have a beautiful and very easy wool embroidery stitch for you. I am pleased today to welcome as my guest Esther Randall, author of Esther's Silk Ribbon Embroidery. Esther has some lovely stitches and some ideas on wool embroidery for you. Welcome to the show, Esther.
Thank you, Martha. Let me share with you some of the wonderful stitches that you can do with wool embroidery to embellish these wonderful little animals. There's many stitches, and it just shows up so well and is so complementary to the wool fabric that we're using here on these projects. We have a wonderful color range, and they blend so well, and the colors are so complementary to each other. Our first stitch that we'll be doing today is the chain stitch and the lazy daisy stitch. And the thing about the chain stitch and the lazy daisy is that you can go in so many directions with your stitching. I'm working on a blanket here. Eventually we'll have all the stitches, all embroidery stitches that are complementary to the wool. Let me show you our chain stitch. We're going to come up through the fabric, knot your thread, and please treat this wonderful wool thread as it should be treated. Very soft as you swing your needle and stitch around. Put it back in the same hole that you went in and pull it up and catch the loop. You want to fluff it out. You don't want to pull it really tight. Just let it fluff and let its beauty show. You're going to go back down, up at the next stitch. Throw your thread up, treating it very gently, and around to make your flower. And the lazy daisy stitch makes wonderful flowers. It makes wonderful petals for your leaves. It's just so versatile, the stitches that you can use with you doing the lazy daisy.
And what about the chain stitch, Esther?
Okay, the chain stitch is basically the same stitch. Okay, we're going to swing it up. Oh. But instead of going down, and we're going to come up in the down in the same stitch and loop it here in this, so it catches, and then you begin to make your chain.
Thank you so very much, Esther. Next, I'd like to share with you a home decorating idea I know you'll love. This heart Demi-Pillow is named so because it's a small pillow. It has 4 little hearts, 1, 2, 3, 4 that travel around, and a little bow that is tied in the middle. By the way, if you're going to have a ring bearer's pillow in a wedding, this little tied bow is really a good idea because, let me show you what happens here. You untie the bow because it is stitched to the pillow, then you slip your rings on or your fake rings on, whichever one you're going to use for the ring bearer, and then you tie your rings back on. Here's how you make these little tiny hearts. All right, I trace off the little pillow onto my fabric, then I shape the hearts putting the pins in the large edge, and once again I come in and find the pull thread. Can you see that over my finger there? Find the pull thread on the inside, and if you will watch magically what's going to happen to those little floppy parts of the heart. I pull the pull thread, and guess what? It lays down as pretty as can be. Now let me refresh your memory one more time about what to do on this bottom miter. I turn it underneath on itself, there we go, and then I fold it in, and then I chop it away and stitch it down. Next, I have a really pretty craft idea for you, a really nice little pillow to hang on the wall for a decoration. Have you ever dreamed about a gift that would take less than an hour to make, would not cost too much, and would really be the absolute perfect gift for nearly everyone on your list? I think I have an idea for you. This little Victorian heart wall hanging is absolutely precious. It has the English lace that goes all the way around and is trimmed with trims simply found in almost any bridal department. Here's how it's made. Here is the English lace edging. The gathering row runs across the top, and then it comes down at an angle. Let me show you why that came down at an angle. You see the pillow on the top, how it comes in just a little skinny part and then gets fat around the edge. This is how you do it. You bring the stitching at an angle, and then you gather your lace. This piece is the lace for the front, and then just a pink plain fabric for the back. And the back is exactly like the front. So there's the front and the back. Now let me show you what else we've got here. If you would like to trim away some of the little motifs out of this English lace, please do so. Here is a little bow that can be trimmed away, and you might even hot glue gun or stitch them right over there in the middle to embellish it even further. After you stitch your pillow together, you use this particular trim to go around the edge, and then this little trim is what you use on the top to make your little wall hanging hang on the wall. I love to collect antique clothes. Come take a trip with me into my attic, and I'll share some of my treasures with you. This lovely dress, probably about 100 years old, I purchased in Massachusetts from an estate in the New England area. It is truly magnificent. Let me just start at the top and take you down through some details. This lovely little collar, about 3 or 4 inches tall, has batiste and lace and batiste and lace. Then if you will notice, the bodice of the dress, which comes down into a V, has tucks. The lace shaping is done on top of these tucks, you know, like we've been doing during the show today, zigzagging the lace, although this dress wasn't zigzagged, since they did not have zigzag sewing machines 100 years ago. You would zigzag right on top of a tucked piece. The laces would go down into a miter and into a little diamond, and then the laces travel up and over. And you see, you would even see part of the tucking in this dress. This tucked collar, let me turn it over. The tucked collar is actually zigzagged down on top of the dress. I think the waist is fascinating also, with its pieces of tucking and lace and tucking and lace and tucking and lace. To me, and then the skirt, for those of you that would like to see the rest of the details of the dress, have absolutely beautiful tucks, all different widths of tucks on this lovely lady's dress. For our Sewing for the Heart today, I have a letter from Jane Ober of Orleans, Massachusetts. Jane writes, "The congregation of the Chapel of the Holy Paraclete in Orleans, Massachusetts, where I worship, has grown so much in the past few years that we've run out of room. Now part of the congregation has to worship in the undercroft by way of a television screen. This is awful, so we are building a new church. I wanted to use what God has given me to help raise money for the new church. So I am making heirloom items, from bassinet hangings to christening gowns and trousseau nightgowns, to raise money for the new chapel. I donate all the proceeds to the building fund. It is fun, and I hope that the recipients of the heirloom pieces are blessed. I certainly do enjoy it." Jane, thank you so much for sharing your idea of how you're sewing for a wonderful project. In other words, doing volunteer work with your sewing machine. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope you'll be able to join me next time in my sewing room.